So, for those that aren't aware, Sxmo recently had a new update. It does add some more usability stuff to it, which is really nice. There are still some things that I am still kind of waiting for, but they're getting closer to that. The latest version is now 1.4.0, and it actually brings some other options for theming and things like that too. Real quick, I just wanted to show you kind of what it looks like currently on my phone. So, okay, so this is merely the what the new login screen looks like for SXMO. Well, it's not quite new, but the keyboard's new. So that's kind of the first thing that you'll notice is you pull it up. If you'll just give me a second. So this is currently kind of how it starts up for me. There's supposed to be a background coming up, but this is running on Arch Linux. So this is like I installed the bare bones Arch ARM, and then installed the Sxmo using the script by Justine Smithies. And so as you can see, the X Resources patch makes it really nice and much more easily themable. If my background actually came up, then that would be nice. But you can see that we've got Bluetooth added. Oh, there's my background. Okay, so you can see the background. The theme. Come on. Okay, so the theme kind of matches if my phone wants to work well. The top bar is kind of yellow. And then we've got a nice green in the D menu if you can't see that. So that's basically Bluetooth. So we can look at, and I've done a couple things different myself, but these different updates have made it slightly quicker and more responsive because I've had issues with it being slightly less responsive. But if we go into the apps, you can see that I've added a couple things myself to it. So in the configurations, of course, it'll go over that and the different things that you can do with the apps hook. But there's that. And that's really simple to configure, so it's not that hard to work with. Other than that, yeah, it's mostly been kind of slow work on a bunch of things like if it wants to focus, the icon's on the top corner there. So there is a possibility to add percentages to that, but I haven't gotten around to doing that. So that would be something that down the road I plan on doing for ricing it. But other than that, you've basically got all the other standard stuff like the audio menu, and then we can go back to the system menu. Were a couple other additions other than that, so we can go over that otherwise as well. Here in the user guide, it doesn't look like this. It's actually a white background, but since I've got it open in Vimby, it's laying over a dark theme over it. So just so you know, it's gonna burn your eyes out when you go to it in the user guide initially because of that. So as from the get-go, as you noticed on mine, I had a background for. I had set that up before they implemented this, but they now offer a default background to go with the config template, which kind of it covers later on down. So when you first install it, it'll actually, I believe, move that default config template into the Sxmo config directory so that you can actually configure it from there without having to create the file yourself and everything else. So it's actually got this default background that it uses, but you can configure that yourself, and we'll actually look at the other ones that have started to pop up now that this patch has come out. So it kind of, the user guide basically covers all the stuff, your gestures and whatnot. But they're still, I believe, yeah, they are still updating it because there's still some stuff that's out of date somewhat. But for the most part, a lot of it is still basically up to date. So it goes over connecting your the modem and what that's gonna look like, and receiving calls and texts. I guess somewhere in the menu it actually shows the contact name, and there is a contact management script that it has now for managing your contacts. So when you open it, you can go into the contacts thing and hit a new contact, and it'll let you add a new contact to it, which is really, really nice. But yeah, you can sit there and manage it, your contacts that way. Sorry, I pulled it up on my Pine phone to look at it, and it was being funny with me. But oh, that's a new nice feature. You don't have to manually input your contacts as a tab separated table anymore. You can do that basically within a menu now. So if you've got someone you want to really quick add their thing to, you don't have to open up your contacts list in Vim and add that kind of thing. You can just go straight from the get-go. So texting basically works the same. I'm not sure how you would change that to something like Pigeon to manage text and all, but that would be nice to know and figure out. If someone knows, you can actually leave a comment. That would be very helpful, because I'm not sure what you would have to do to change that. But of course, you've got all the default stuff. This is, of course, using post-market OS as the standard. So this upgrade stuff, it will automatically be changed for the install script for Arch ARM, for those that are interested. But then you've got, so this is the part that really would interest most people. So you've got all these hooks available to you from, where is it? From here all the way on down. Yeah. So basically from the top to the bottom. So those are kind of the different things that you have available to you to take advantage of. So like when you've got an incoming call, you can run a different script for that and slightly unlock your screen and stuff like that. And then you've also got your, so what's interesting is Sxmo actually has a few things kind of like integrated into it per se, like SFeed, some YouTube and Reddit scripts that you can take advantage of. That a few of those go into the config directory for Sxmo. You've got the conky config that it'll pull from, and of course your contacts list there as well. And then the user scripts is where you kind of put your scripts that are custom written for you. So if you, for example, do I have, no, okay, oops. So if you are using something like YTFZF and you just wanted to find a video to watch on it, you could actually implement that. And YTFZF has an implementation for using dmenu by default, which should pretty easily integrate well with Sxmo as it stands. So it'll let you go through that list. You might have to do some modifying otherwise, but that is an option that you have, is you can add scripts for that or just add it in by default. But then and that user scripts is actually a folder rather than a script itself. So it says right there, directory. You can kind of go over a lot of this stuff. That the user scripts thing has been in there for a while. But where is it? Okay, so here's kind of their skeleton configuration that they've got. So you've got a bunch of options that you can add. The new thing that they've also added with the keyboard is feedback. So you can have a sound file or a vibrate, and that uses the click clack utility, is what they've called it, or program, and it can either vibrate, make a sound, or do both at the same time if you want it to. So that's an option that you have. You do have to add that to your exinit there in the Sxmo directory. You can take advantage of X resources even more now as well. So that's something there. And then, of course, you can change your wallpaper on stuff. It'll go over that. Okay, so another thing, like I mentioned, this patch has better support for X resources. So what's actually happened is someone has actually started a repo with some theming that you can kind of start off with, and you can see that, like I showed off in mine, there are some different options. I believe I was updating mine through the repo, so it didn't go with the releases. It went with the source changes. So any of the X resources changes that were made in the interim, I was able to take advantage of course. You can install PyCom for that transparency. It will take a performance hit. I noticed that with mine, which is why in my config, mine was, commented out. So we can, where was it? So another thing too that you can do is you can actually help create themes for it. These are the backgrounds that the repo maintainer has set up that is asking for help on, because they can't do it all themselves. But if you want to add more things that you can actually check out kind of what the tree layout for it is and kind of the conventions for each of them if it wants to come up, but it's all right there. You can check that out and help with that as well. Okay, so right now I've SSH'd into my PinePhone. So this is kind of what I've got on it currently as it stands. So I've got a nice library, small, going on here. I did move many of my configs over, so I've got the same NeoVim config, the same SSH config, the same LF, RC, and a couple other things that I have on my computer as it is. So that is one advantage with this that you can take advantage of with the PinePhone, is having those same configs. So you're not really changing very much. I have tried installing a couple other things other than that, but so in the Sxmo, like I mentioned, I added my own apps thing. So I added a few applications to the apps menu that weren't there before. So like the Foliate, which is an ebook reader that I'm kind of messing around with, looking at a couple options there. I found out that it could open some older ebook formats that are in a digital library that is a number of years old. So that's why I've got it installed currently. I do have it, otherwise I could do a video on that. But I've also got Lollipop that I added in, which is a music player that doesn't come in the standard menu config. They did add a few more apps to that it'll detect. But And then what else was there? I also manually added Qt browser. And I think that is actually about it. So most everything else is in there already, plus a couple more things that weren't there before as well. So if you're kind of looking for something that way, then those are a couple of your options that you have. Let's go on an adventure, actually. What's this GDK scale thing? So I haven't really looked at that. Oh. Got it. Okay, so we're gonna actually go wrong application. So there are some things that I have to kind of like mess with, like, oh, my default editor settings. Let's see. So this is basically what it would look like to configure it. I could keep my keys straight. So yeah, you can add these prefixes into the command, so you can kind of see that like the layout for the apps one is it basically checks for the command, redirects any output to dev null, and then it'll basically because dmenu takes standard input, it'll echo out the icon from whatever font you happen to be using if you want to have icons, the app name, and then it kind of skips this, and this is the command that it runs when it does that. So there's that, of course. Yeah, my Vim configs. So I believe this was one of the scripts that I added, and this is one I believe no, these two I believe are in there by default. Halfway. I'm halfway unsure or not, but this is a conky config. I copied it over. I do plan on messing around with the conky. It's been a while since I've messed around with conky, and that's because it's been a number of years since I've used it. I might add it back in somewhere in my current rice on my computer, but that'll have to be seen. Of course, you've got your S feed, so you can add your YouTube channels to it and whatnot, just like your standard S feed. And then here's my Xinit config. So currently I've got the editor. When it runs X programs, it should open Vim. It'll open Surf as a browser, and of course Surf is the default browser that it'll run standard. Then it's got, the wake interval is for like when you're in that deep suspend mode. It'll basically wake up momentarily to look for any notifications and then add those to the notifications file that you can then pull up in the D menu, system menu. And then, of course, my background, my conky, and MPD running in the background, which is still very broken. But other than that, that's basically most of it so far. This is based on dmenu, but since it takes advantage of X resources, you can work with it pretty flexibly. This, of course, I'm using Justine's theme as a skeleton. I did change a couple of the colors, and I have a different background than is shown on the Sxmo Arch Arm repo. But this is what I was messing with first because I thought it ran this and it doesn't. But yeah. If you've got any questions, I may not be the right person to ask that or anything. A couple things of note when messing with this. So the script sets this up. as you watch for changes, your option is either to run the Sxmo alarm script again after downloading it, and it'll actually update Sxmo with the repos currently. But I've actually pulled that Sxmo update portion out of the script and made this update repos script from it. So it'll actually automatically update and it'll update and install it when I run it. But those are some of your options that you've got that I've done. You can kind of pull from it, add or take whatever you need. And yeah, it's pretty simple. If you've got questions about doing that process that I go through for updates that way, let me know. And I can either show off how I do it or whatever. But yeah, that is that. And of course, like I mentioned, same config. So I've got basically the same ZSH line minus the highlighting. But yeah, I will. If you like what I do, appreciate some of the stuff that I do, don't hesitate to add that support. Add the subscribers. 100 subscribers is like right around the corner on YouTube. As that grows, the other ones, of course, will grow with it. So yeah, check me out on those other platforms as well. I will see you all in the next one.